solo, but more often it's performed with pairs or with a team or with a group. And usually if it's a pair, it's more often than not a male and a female, or they're groups or teams collaborating together within specific events. The scenarios can only be successful, these teams, events, solo even, can only be successful if there is order, form, consistency in collaboration, and that they are taking, and that whoever is taking the lead is recognized and acknowledged. Someone has to be, if it's a group setting, or even if it's just a pair, one or two, who's the lead? Who's leading at that particular time? So the subject is the dance. Moving on. Some of the dances, it says some of the experiences, dances that we experience of dance spring forth from, as I already said, celebrations, times of inspiration, or for encouragement, to give congratulation to make a statement, to take a stance or position on. Dances are formed for social issues, to express occurring emotions such as love, rage, hurt, loss, strength, endurance, and also to convey patience, temperance, and at times, again, to wage war. Then I put off to the side, lest we forget, I thought about, I don't know why here, that song, y'all remember that song, Love on Top? Love on Top. I got down here, dances may require a prop at times. And it seems like to me she was carrying something in her hand during that video. A cane. So some dances require a prop, because I wrote down here Queen Beat, Love on Top. More often, you the individual performers. This is a critical point right here. So, legacy with the 86-year-old man, he had a history. Things were different then. He lived it. He lived it. Let's say he's now off the scene, but we have been told that story, and based on his life then, he decided, hold my mule, because I'm going to get this out of me, because I have a lot to be thankful for, a lot to be grateful for. Legacy. At this point here, what I want to convey is the person doing the dancing, you have horns, you have the guitar, you have the drums, y'all get me? You have instruments. But the instrument for dance is you. Bear with me in this folly. Lord, make me an instrument of praise. When it comes to dance, you're that instrument. Whoever is doing it, whoever is conveying whatever emotion, whatever praise, whatever thanks, is coming from that individual. I know we got dancers that have names. I got you. But the point I want to convey at this time is the dancer is the instrument. You are. No words. You may sing. Singing in the rain. You may sing. But you're the instrument conveying the emotions. Let me move on a little bit further. I also got down here prep rallies, to rally or not rally, prepared or not. The dancer, performer, or artist can't accomplish displaying these actions. Here's a couple of actions. I remember, and then you'll understand once I convey the action. I remember back in the day when house parties was big. You had the cassette tapes and all of that. And we had a friend that lived around the corner. They had painted their floor, I think, black in the basement, whatever color. They painted the floor black. They emptied out the basement. They bought in this big, gigantic speaker, and they invited people over. And that was my first experience with going to a house party. And I remember standing there when the people finally came. This was, of course, before Renee. When the people came to the party, of course, it was men and women, boys and girls at the time, because I was probably, 16 16, 17 at the time. I don't remember. But anyway, while in the basement, they were gathering. They started dancing. You know. Woo, that's loud. And I don't claim to be. That's the funny part about the message. Once I gave it to him, I was like, again, why you giving me the dance? I'm not a dancer. Renee will let you know I'm not a dancer. But that's what was given to me. But I'm gonna go somewhere with that. So while I'm leaning on the wall with all that good music going on, I'm looking around the room and I saw somebody else that was leaning on the wall, meaning a female. I almost can call her name, but she was a part of First Seat in Chicago, whatever. But anyway, so I saw her leaning on the wall, and a slow song came on, and I was like, So I went ahead and did it. Went ahead and waltzed around the room, but it wasn't an easy decision to come to because I'm not that person. I'm not, as I can hear this guy say, I'm not that guy. She would have had to come to me, but at that particular time, I think I bit the bullet, and I did whatever moves I thought matched the song. I'll say it that way. I don't call it dancing, but I was moving across the floor. So what I'm getting ready to say here is there are times when dance aren't effective. They're only effective if you participate. I wrote down, you can't be posted up along the wall like a wallflower collecting dust. And then I talked about another, this is personal, but I remember a time, because for me, everything that I'm talking about today is all inclusive with dancing. I remember a time while in the service. I was out on the parade deck. This is the United States Marine Corps. I was on the parade deck, and we were doing a formation, and we were doing a left flank, right flank, and as I was on the parade deck making that move, they announced left flank in their military way of saying F flank or something along those lines. But anyway, when I made the flank, I guess my footing wasn't correct. And one of the drill sergeants came up to me and grabbed me by my field jacket. That's that multiple different colors of green and black, look like a bunch of leaves on that. He grabbed me by my jacket and pulled me out. In the service, I looked up at him because he was taller than I was and gave him this look. And I guess he didn't like the... Y'all ever see officer in the jail? Don't you eyeball me. I gave him this look. I looked up at him and I didn't say the words, but I'm telling you, what? Because that's the way I felt. What? And he talked about my move wasn't proper, and then something else. Otherwise, you're gonna fly my 747. That's a sort of corporal punishment where they make you go through a routine of exercises on your back, on your feet, spread them. 6 feet, 6 inches up, and all that on your back. Side straddle hops, mountain climbers, all that stuff. So I'm looking up at him, and in my mind I'm thinking, aren't we on the parade deck? Aren't we out here practicing, drilling? Point out what you need to point out, and let me get back in line. So at some point in that conversation, confrontation, he's looking at me with that look, and I'm looking back. Y'all can talk about me later. I'm looking back at him. And I guess he didn't like the sternness of, I did not care at that point. Because I entered the service on delayed entry program, wasn't even out of high school yet. I was going in to cook. They told me when I got in there that ain't available. I was like, okay, if that ain't available, I don't want to do active. Make me reserve. No, we can't do that. It was just a bunch of no's. So at this point, I'm like, I think it was 18 at the time. So I guess he was gonna punish me, make me do those corporal exercises. So when I get up to the barracks, I know I'm getting off the story, but it's in my mind. So I get up to the barracks, and he says, first he came to me, he took my field jacket, and he pulled it off my head and threw it on the floor. And I was like, what the heck? Even then. So now he, clears his throat. And then he says, private, down. So at that point, I'm kind of up here with it. Anybody feel me right now? But anyway, so I took these two thumbs and I lined them up along the seams of my field pants, at attention. I stood there and I looked at them, and y'all can talk about me. I'm probably going to hear about this, but it's. And when he said down, I said, sir, no, sir. Stay tuned. We'll talk about it another time. Anyway, so back to the story. The other thing that came to mind was having to do with dance. Shake, rattle, and roll came to my mind. Get on the good foot, James Brown came to mind. Twist the night away came to mind. The Bird came to mind. Breakdancing came to mind. The art of stepping. Now, there's a couple of steps that come to mind. The stepping, Steppers Club type stepping, and then stomping the yard type stepping. All these things came to mind. And then the next thing I wrote down, what are the benefits of dance? Strength is gained, endurance, power, motivation, elation, elevations, all to be had with dance. And then I wrote down, in reflection, there's yoga, comma. I've got Tai Chi, comma. I've got, in my mind, karate, comma. And then I actually wrote the word stomp yard. So I'm assuming that has to do with stomping the yard. So the benefits of dance. And in the movie Stomp the Yard, I think they were trying to, what is the word when they join a fraternity or a sorority? What is that? They were trying to pledge. That's the word. They were trying to pledge. So anyway, and then underneath that dance, I've got overall body healing. I also have written down to transmute negative energy. And there's more to that, so much more, but the time won't allow to get into all of that, or I don't think your patience would bear with me on bringing out a whole lot of that. At the top of the next page, I wrote family reunion. I wrote frankly, was that Beverly Mays?
Frankie Beverly.
Frankie, right. Frankie, Beverly, and Mays. So that group. And then there are other songs that come to mind, for the summertime or picnics. I'm thinking about, Summertime, Will Smith. But anyway, there are other songs out there that seem a perfect fit for that picnic atmosphere. And then I wrote down something about the slide and the group dance. You know what I'm thinking about right now? In a couple of Tyler Perry's movies, at the end, they would gather together. It would seem rehearsed, but it definitely didn't feel out of the ordinary, unnatural, because you can almost see that happening.
It always does. Yeah.
So anyway, let me move a little bit further. Now I've got, but in addition to that, for those that are wallflowers and don't think you can dance, there's all types of dances. I got down here. Just put one foot in front of the other, and soon you'll be walking out of the door, and then I got a smiley face. So the next thing I have is exploitation and competitions. We've got nightclubs, poles, erotic situations having to do with dance. We got strippers, we got television, and then we got competitions. And the focal point usually then is just for money and prizes. How many dance programs do we have on TV these days, or have we seen? And then how many movies, whatever the major plot is, they tend to go into the bars and dancers are depicted more or less. It could be neutral, but a lot of times, because they want to keep your eye, they're usually provocative or extremely erotic, along those lines, kind of exploiting it a little bit. And then I have named down here again Soul Food, Dirty Dancing. I've got Fame this time, and then I've got Flashdance. Y'all remember Flashdance? I also have written down Mad Mike. Anybody seen Mad Mike? Interesting, right? And then also, when it comes to dance, I wrote down Shaft. Shaft. And let me tell you why. Back in the day, I don't know about now, the reason why I did that, how can I say this clearly? People like us back then that were depicted on those, what do they call those, black something movies? What do they call them? What's the word? But anyway, those type of movies where the prominent cast was black. I'll just say it just like that. And usually the characters that were supposed to be displayed as cool, they would get these slender, athletic, build men that were like 6 feet tall, and they have the big naturals, and they walking down the street. But when they walk down the street is the point I'm getting at. Not their color, but the walk down the street, it was usually very animated. It wasn't simple. It was just something about that walk. And to be frankly honest, I think during that period of time, when we were having issues with the people in blue, the men in blue, I think just sometimes, the way brothers walk, sometimes I think it was a little intimidating. And they this is just my thought. Talk about me later. Just hold me up in positive prayers. But anyway, that's the feeling. I think sometimes, when the way they presented themselves so confident, and maybe in some's eyes didn't have a whole lot, like, we're going to check that guy out. Get up against the wall. What the, Somebody out there know exactly what I'm saying. I might be stuttering over my words, but y'all know exactly what I'm saying. But for me, that walk, I put it under the category as dance. Because some of them, they weren't doing it on purpose. Sure, maybe on the screen, they overemphasized it. But, when you see some walking down the street now, I mean, it's a little bit different now if you get into their pants and, the pants below the butt sometimes, and they can barely walk because they got the... Talk about me later. But y'all know what I'm saying. So it's a little, yeah, doing that little shuffle. I don't consider that a dance. I consider that as a mess. But anyway, I wrote down here, because of that walk, brought us to the attention of many police. And then the focus of that was the cadence. The cadence. Again, the dance is what we're talking about, the dance. What also came to mind is Pretty Woman, that song. Pretty woman, what? Walking down the street, pretty. I believe whoever wrote that song was probably on Lookout Hill taking a... And then the other song that came to mind, y'all keep saying, it's like, you don't know nothing about country. Or I know about Badonkadonk. Who was that? Trace Atkins? Badonkadonk. So again, cadence, for me, rhythm, Woo! Let me calm myself. So there were other depictions of dance in movies like, y'all remember the Tarzan movies or the King Kong movies, and then you'd have, the indigenous or tribal people standing around doing whatever, because in the movie King Kong, they treated King Kong as a deity. So they would dance before him and sacrifice before him. And then you had Tarzan. At some points of the jungle, you'd run across him. And then other movies in general, too, that they would be depicted. But I'm going somewhere with this. It says, or the like, tribal in nature or indigenous, and or sacred or traditional. And then I've got FYI. Dances when performed in the ring. That's why I talked about sports early on. Y'all remember, the great Muhammad Ali. That's my word. The great Muhammad Ali. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. And, for me, they're actually dancing, dancing in the ring. So I wanted to include that as well. And now the dance begins. Here's one for y'all. See if it bring back any memories. Give me a moment. Saturday morning. Gathered in front of the TV. Yes! The Soul Train. Woo! A Saturday was not a Saturday until Soul Train came on. And one of the things I found out is if you go to Wikipedia and you look up Soul Train, you'll find they have every episode listed. You can go and see who the guests were on every episode. And it talks about the syndication and so on and so forth. But it was not the same. It's like I put down here, did it do anything for you? Woo! And then you had, American Bandstands and a little different. But anyway, then also I put again the Thriller video when it came out again. We're back to the dance. Billie Jean, Pretty Young Thing I wrote down. And then here it says, got a lot of power. Make me feel like, woo! Dun, dun. Don't stop till you get enough. Michael Jackson early on. But anyway, the dance has the ability to transport one to a place, to pin down specific memories. The dance can bring about a form of communication and also give direction and also bring about manifestations. While watching performances of video, we can experience some of the same emotions an editor or a director was looking to convey vicariously or by proxy. That brings to mind this. I was a part of many organizations coming up, and a lot of times they had me in front of the microphone. I won't say that I was a prep person, meaning, like a prep team, get up there in front and bring everybody in, bring everybody's focus in. But every now and then I had the opportunity to sit down and look out among the audience, or in this word, bear with me, a congregation, and I might see a certain one. I know she can sing. I know, so you would call them up and have them to sing, and just by that action of singing, some of them kind of resisted. They didn't want to do it, but they found out when they did, they were just as blessed or benefited from doing it as much as those that heard them, especially some that not sing, they sang. Not just a singer, they sang. They opened their mouth just a couple of words and you swang. I mean, you ain't no... Something on you was going to move. I don't care if it was the head. Something on you was going to get to moving. So everybody benefited vicariously, or you would get yours by proxy, having someone to go before. And I would definitely take advantage of that because, like I said, I don't claim to be a singer nor a dancer. The other things that are conveyed with singing is you can feel the anger or see the love, experience the excitement, valor or pride, or victory and triumph. One of the things that came to mind is, like one of the Rocky movies, for example. Again, boxing, dancing around the ring and all of that. And it would always be some type of plot that would be kind of iffy, where, is he going to fight? Isn't he going to fight? And I go back to that scene where I think the wife was having a baby. The baby had issues. The baby was finally born. They were in the hospital. She called Rocky over to her, and she said, come here. He said, like, what? And all she said was win. And then everything came alive. The music came, everything. I mean, he was running. Just came alive, dancing. Here we go. The other thing that came to mind right here, I put down here, take a look at this one. I'm going back to Save the Last Dance. Save the Last Dance. At this point, they're in the club. Johnny Kemp comes on. It's Friday night. Just got and the whole club just lights up. I wrote down here their aura, full of excitement. It connected with everyone in there. I put down here. You could see the liberty that they seemed to be experiencing at the time, the exuberance and the youth of that time, what they were conveying then when that song Just Got Paid. It's Friday, Friday night. So that's another song that came to mind from Save the Last Dance. I actually didn't convey it like I wanted to convey it because I really wanted to kind of sing the song. I wish I could put some of these songs on. Then I got another scene, the dance. Another scene from Saturday Night Fever. Bear with me in this folly. Actually, you can look this up in Google too. It's the very beginning. John Travolta, the role he was playing, whatever they call him during that. I keep thinking Vinny, but that is not what they call him in that. But anyway, he's walking down the street with a paint can at the beginning of Saturday Night Fever. And that cadence I was telling you about, the brothers walk, that confident. He had that same walk, walking down the street, and the song that was playing was, staying alive, and it seemed like, he was carrying a mean kind of paint. He was holding his own. But anyway, I thought that was special. Again, the dance. And that walk to me is a form of a dance as well. Then I wrote down for myself every now and then when I hear that song from Outkast, what is it? The Way You Move. The Way You Move. And then finally, I think this is a finally, and then finally another song, it actually has the word dance in the song. I don't know if you remember this. Dancing Queen by ABBA. Remember that? Beautiful songs. Something about that for me is uplifting, youthful, bright, and light. I like it. And it even says something about 17. Then when they get to that part, Tamarine, how it changes love it. Love that song. So now, to those of us that are like me, I've been talking about dancing, talking about moving and all of that. For those that are like me that are not a dancer, but believe it or not, there is a dance in you. I know I'm looking off from the camera. There is a dance in you. But for the men, I wrote down in a circle, I've got poetry in motion. This is for the not dancer. And then I can hear the song, every move you make, every breath you take. For the not so much of a dancer. And then I wrote in parentheses, sports. I don't call myself a sports watcher. I watch basketball, I watch football, I watch all of that. I'm more of a highlighter. I like the highlights after the game. In fact, I think the best seat is at home watching it on the television. And for me, it's even better when they've cut and they've got all the highlights of what has taken place. And usually the camera is coming to play. They slow down the moves. That's why I use that song, every move, they make, every breath they take. And, they're making this or they, poetry in motion. For me, that's still a dance. Just like in the ring with the hockey. I talked about that the last message when I was talking about them bringing it up to date, talking about like a roaring lion walking about seeking whom they may devour. That I don't think that lion would get away today, if you had some hockey players out there with their sticks and pucks. But sports, they're dances to me. I don't care if they're, doing a vault, running first and then flipping up in the air. Poetry in motion. So that's for you that don't claim to be dancers. I'm about finished, y'all. And then finally, back to soul food. Soul food. Y'all remember that scene where her name was Faith and she was trying to audition, I think, for a position of something. And the brother got on the organ and the first, and she gets out on there. She has her do-rag on her head just so. Yeah, it was the introduction to A Dream by the DeBarge. So I wanted to convey that again, the dance. And then I also have another one where Jennifer Lopez and Ralph Fiennes or Fiennes, or other words, Marissa and Chris, in a movie called Made in Manhattan, where they danced along to the song of Fall Again by Glenn Lewis, through the field. And that's more of a love scenario again, but it's the dance. It was more R&B during that period of time. And then I already mentioned Flashdance. During that period of time, there were a couple of scenes where, I think that's the one where she was in the room and after she did the dance, she let all the water fall on her head. And then the other one where she was trying to audition, I think, to get into a school. And I think the song was What a Feeling by Irene Cara. And her name was Alex in the movie. Jennifer Beals. She was called Alex in the movie Flashdance, and she did her audition. A couple of times when she started, she messed up. And, they were getting nervous, the people that were ready to judge her. But again, it's all about dance, and I'm winding it down here. So, for me, when you think about dance, I don't care what part of the world you're in, different cultures have different ways of expressing themselves in dance. And really the bottom line that I want to get to is this. I'll just turn to the last page because I've been talking long enough. Really the main thing I want to get to when it has to do with dancing is this. The very next time you bust a move, take thought of its foundation. Take thought of its history. We're the instrument, our bodies. Anyone expressing themselves needs to understand that there's history behind the moves that they're making. Some of them may come up, Renee, with new moves, new styles, new way of doing things, but the dance has a cultural, has a legacy, has a history that goes way back. And it should not be taken lightly is what I'm getting at. And for us, those of us that have such awe for the universe, that have such awe for God, and one of the ways that they can express themselves is presenting themselves. This is the part of presenting your body a living sacrifice. If your hand goes up, it means something. If you feel like swaying, it means something. If someone else is engulfed in their dance or their move and it's affecting you, I don't care if you look at them and point at them and shake your head like saying, yes! It means something. But they're making light of dance these days. All the dance competitions. It has meaning. It has history. Some of them dance for their liberty. Some of them dance for their freedom. Some of them dance for opportunity. Some of them dance for peace. So we shouldn't take dance lightly is what I'm getting at. It means something. Now, I'm not saying don't participate in the competitions. I'm saying when you do, realize that move came from somewhere. I don't care if you're doing the salsa. I don't care if you're Greek dancing. I don't care if you're a part of the Bollywood team. I don't care. There are all types of dances around the world, and they mean something. So the next time you bust a move, be aware, be cognizant that this came from somewhere. It began somewhere. History I'm talking about. History. History. It was somebody's story. It was somebody's story. The last song that I put down, I thought was a beautiful song. And I'm about to tell you why I wrote Snake Dance earlier. The last actual song that I wrote the words to go something like this. I hope you never lose your sense of wonder. You get your fill to eat, but always keep that hunger. May you never take one single breath for granted. God forbid love ever leave you empty-handed. I hope you still feel small when you stand beside the ocean. Whenever one door closes, I hope one more opens. Promise me that you'll give faith a fighting chance. And when you get the choice to set out or dance, I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you never fear those mountains in the distance. Never settle for the path of least resistance. Living might be a mistake, but it's worth making. Don't let some hell-bent heart leave you bitter. When you come close to selling out, reconsider. Give the heavens above more than a passing glance. And when you get the choice to set it out or dance, I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you dance. And that's it right there. Now, the reason why I wrote Snake Dance and the reason for the dance is this. I had a dream that was pretty straightforward, and it's this. A group of men or a group of people, I couldn't identify them all, but since I used the word flank, talking about my experience in the Marine Corps boot camp, they flanked me in the dream. There were a team coming at me. And when I say team, that's an understatement. Picture 2 rows of choirs on my left hand, 2 rows of choirs in front of me, and 2 rows of choirs on my right hand. But it wasn't a choir. It was a group of people, and they were coming at me in the dream. And instantly in the dream, I thought it was going to be negative, because they were coming toward me. And I was like, uh-oh, I guess I'm talking too much or something. So when they came up on me, they stopped. And on the left hand, someone came up to me. And he took my hands, Renee, and he held them out. And he positioned them like he was preparing me to dance. They weren't coming to fight me. They were coming to prepare me. They positioned this hand. They positioned that hand. If I can give you an idea, I would say it's like 2 wrestlers in there. And if I was going to make any move, this is the move I was going to be making. Something along those lines. This was in the dream. And here, let me add to it. It didn't stop there. So the guy that was positioning my hands in front of all of these people that stopped, there was no negative. I felt no negative. It was like they were all for me. For me. After he showed me to do with my hands, blessed be the Lord that teacheth my hands to war and my fingers to fight. After he did that, I looked over at him and I said, that looked like Durrell. Let me explain. Durrell was a guy that I knew from Chicago back in the day before I originally moved to Missouri. This was in the 90s. I think it was 90. Durrell was a former, I think he was pretty deep, gang member. Durrell if I be not mistaken, yo's out there listening to me, because some of y'all know the story, had gotten shot a number of times. 50 Cent ain't the only one that got shot up like that. He got shot up, but I'm telling you that he had already got shot. He's now active with the organization that we're active in at that time. He was so thankful. I didn't even see this one coming. He was so thankful about being alive. Anytime he would come to that service and give his testimony about what happened to him, he couldn't help himself. He would get up. All types of contortions of praise, because he was so thankful. Shut up, shut up. But he turned his life around. I decided to take a job here in Missouri with Orkin Pest Control. And I didn't know how long I was going to be away. And he was one of those that my heart went out for. And before we left town, those that don't know, I like bikes. I've only bought two in my time. The one I have now and that one, the very first. I went to Cozy Cycles. I think it's Cozy. It's K-O-Z-Y up north. And I bought that bike. Because I used to ride the bike to work. I did a lot on my bike. I remember riding one day down the street and, I guess they didn't like to see me. It wasn't us. I was, because I would always ride against traffic on the streets. And on this particular day, I guess somebody was out looking for trouble. They had a cup, and it was filled with eggs and all kind of stuff. And as I was coming at them, they threw this cup on me and, whatever. So all type of experiences I've had. But anyway, when we decided that we were going to make that move here, because there's stories about that too. Maybe one day we'll talk about it. I said, that bike, because I didn't know what I was going to do with it here. All I was thinking about was work. Got a family to take care of. So I decided I would give him that bike. I went to his house, and it was me saying, I care, I'm concerned about you, and this is what I have to give, and I gave him that bike. And that's the last time I saw it, and probably the last time I saw him. I'm not saying he's gone. I don't know if he's gone or not. I actually asked Renee on the slide, because I didn't want to tell her where this was going. I was like, so, Daryl, what was I telling you? But I said all that to say this. When I looked over in the dream at that person, I said, that's Daryl. And I was like, probably before I could say, no. Guess what happened, y'all? That person rode off on a bike. And I woke up out of the dream. As I sit in front of you, I don't know if he's living or no. Or he's a part of the team, if, God forbid, he's a part of that team helping to keep an eye on things. Because like I said, that group of people coming at me, I thought they were coming for some dark, nefarious stuff. But when they came up on me, it was like they were in agreement with him as they were positioning my hands. I have no reason to make this up, you guys. None. Believe it or not, doesn't matter to me. But that's where the dance came from, and the snake dance, because when I woke up out of the dream, the first thing that came to mind was the snake dance. That's why I mentioned snake dance in the beginning, and that's what led me doing research on what dancing was all about. There's so much history in dance, I haven't even begun to touch it. When you get into the different cultures, when you get into the different, I'll just say cultures. You got indigenous, you got the sacred activities, you got, it's just so many around the world. Dance is universal. Nothing to be played with. But if you use it as an object of praise and appreciation, I'm going to say it's a force to be reckoned with. Don't you fool yourself. Singers ain't the only one that can sing. There's some dancers out there that can dance rain down, that can cause crops to grow. Y'all hear what I'm saying? And the final thing I want to leave you with, because there's some dance troops going around the world, I'll just say this. everything that glitters ain't gold. Everything that's appealing to the eye don't mean it's actually appealing. That's all I'm going to say on that. Bolo. Be on the lookout for All Points Bulletin. They're out there. They're going around the country. So some might say it's probably a continuation of last week's message. That's all right. If you want to take that, then do that. But the dance, y'all, that's what I've given you. I believe the heavenlies wants us to know that's another option for you. I don't care if you just shuffle your feet from side to side, raise your hands, or point in agreement to someone that's, dancing up the floor because you're in agreement. Or those of you that want to transmute some negative energy, I dare you to let loose. For me, dance is personal. You might not have a whole lot of rhythm, but it's personal. Because during your times of life, they're not feeling what you feel when you're presenting yourself, when you're holding up your hands because you want attention. When you're jumping around in praise and thanksgiving, that's yours. That's yours. Or some organizations we've been a part of, you got some people, they just don't know what to do with themselves. But whatever you got in the area of dance, use it. It's to your benefit. So the next time you bust a move, realize that it is founded upon legacy and never forget it. That's all I got. Thanks for stopping by.